right, that got us fired up here. Don't go Baker Mayfield, Johnny Football. The Heisman Trophy winner wasn't surprised by the comparisons that he's been getting to Johnny Manziel, but he said this recently. He said, we're two different people. I've always been a team-oriented guy, not saying that Johnny wasn't, but I've quickly earned the respect of my teammates because of how I worked. I wasn't giving the natural talent that Johnny had because he's a talent. And there's a reason he got taken in the first round. An amazing player. We're just not the same guys mentally. We're just wired differently. That's his response when he was asked about all the different comparisons he's been getting to Johnny Manziel, who you know right now is trying to get back into the NFL. Welcome into the Red Zone. This is where we dig a little deeper on the hot topics. Bill Polian, Louis Riddick, Dan Graziano. On this topic here, though, I want to start with Bill. I want you to take me through the process of making a decision on a quarterback based on his character. How do you greenlight a player when you know there are some issues?
Well, first of all, you investigate. Let's start right from the get-go. First of all, the Heisman Trophy means zero when we talk about the NFL. No one pays any attention to it. What you really pay attention to is what is the guy's makeup, what is his intelligence, what is his ability to function under pressure, how does he process information, and then is he a good citizen? How does he live his life off the field and inside the building? Those are the general areas that you study. And the best predictor of present behavior and future behavior is past behavior. So you look into that in detail. Baker Mayfield, so far as I know, has none of the problems that Johnny Manziel had. There's some issues, planting the flag, et cetera. Those are not issues that would bother me one iota as a general manager. So in that sense, they appear to be two different people.
Yeah, personal character and football character is how I always keep it straight in my mind. Obviously, personal character, you want the guy to be compliant in society, right? I mean, you don't want him getting arrested. You don't want him embarrassing himself, embarrassing the organization to where then he becomes a liability as far as his availability. And there are things that you're going to want to ask Baker about and make sure that he's got under control. But look, again, nothing to the point where, as Bill alluded to, where you're going, take him off the board. No, we can't trust him. Football character is what, in the end, for me, is what it is really all about. And football character is, how much do you love this game? And that's that's the million-dollar question all the time. And you can arrive at that answer a million different ways. But I don't think anyone from watching Baker Mayfield play from afar, or anybody that you'll talk to who's been around him, will say Baker Mayfield doesn't really invest totally in the game and in the team concept and in being there for his buddies and people want to play for him. And that is the biggest compliment you can pay to any player.
But Johnny Manziel said he loved the game.
He did. He did. Believe me, he did. His issues were not on the field. Johnny Manziel's issues were off the field.
But there were in-the-building issues with Manziel in Cleveland. There were, after his first year in Cleveland, you heard things from inside that building about how he wasn't taking things seriously enough in practice and in team meetings. And the attitude that he had around the facility was not what they wanted, and that they had talked to him about it and it hadn't gotten better. So I think that's a big part of this, too. And the comparison stuff, and this is the part of the draft process that I just absolutely cannot stand. Like, we want to, who is this guy? Who is he going to be like? It's not fair to do it to these kids. Baker Mayfield's getting this comparison because, he's not super big and he's done some knucklehead things on camera, and it makes you think, is he going to be like Johnny Manziel? Johnny Manziel didn't make it in the NFL because his game wasn't going to translate to the NFL, and when he got to the NFL, by all accounts, he wasn't willing to put in the work to see how close he could get to that. And I think if we're going to judge Baker Mayfield on that, we would need to have some evidence that he wasn't dedicated to his work at Oklahoma, and I don't think we have that.
Which I can't really speak for Baker, but I would venture to say this. When he makes the statement that, in the end of that statement where he said, we're just wired different, I would bet that that's what he's alluding to. That really look, all the other, some of the gestures that he has made and some of the things that he has said to opponents and all, look, that to me, some people get turned off by it. That to me, look, football isn't for the faint of heart. There's some things that go on out there, ladies and gentlemen, that you may not like and approve of. That to me is a plus for me. Baker loves this game. Baker loves to compete. Baker loves to win with his teammates in a way that, quite honestly, I never saw Johnny display that kind of quote-unquote passion for the game. And I know we're talking about something very abstract, and you can say, well, other people will see that very differently. I see Baker Mayfield much different. Forget the football playing part of it. I see him much differently than I saw Johnny Manziel coming out.
Bill, when a player is coming into the draft getting comparisons to guys like Johnny Manziel, right, it's obviously something he doesn't want. He's saying that they're different. Do you think an owner that was going to draft him is going to have to give the approval on Baker Mayfield?
No, I don't think so. He'll trust his football people. The football people pay no attention to what we say. Excuse me, but that's a fact. They don't. They pay attention to what they see, what they hear from their own people, what they get from their investigations. Stories in the media do nothing but tell them, okay, I got to check this out. They do not. They don't believe him to start with.
Yeah.
And so this kid has none of the problems that Johnny Manziel had. Cleveland got what they deserved.
That's true.
When people did their homework on Johnny Manziel, as everybody will on Baker Mayfield, they were well aware that Johnny had problems that might affect his playing in the National Football League. And Cleveland ignored them. And so they got what they deserved. This kid, as Lou said, shows, at least to this point, from what I can tell and what we've heard from other people, the two of us were at the Senior Bowl,
Yep.
There are none of those issues. So there's no reason for an owner to weigh in on this.
We had, with Johnny Manziel, you knew it was well known that he liked to party, that he liked to drink. I mean, I'm not telling tales out of school here. This has all been out there. With Baker Mayfield, what we have is a guy who doesn't always show the kind of respect for his opponent that maybe his NFL coaches hope he will. And
there's a
he's
certain,
a young guy. That can get better.
There's a certain natural maturity or maturation process that Baker still needs to go through. There's no question about that. We're not saying that he's perfect. I'm just saying this, though. I agree 100%. Intuitively, when I watched these two guys, when Johnny was coming out, if no one had told me anything, and watching Baker Mayfield, I see these guys much differently. The only reason why it's a lazy, easy comparison to make. They're both small, both sub 6 foot, right at 6 foot quarterbacks who play in wide open systems down there, and it's a lazy, easy comparison that I think is dangerous to make. It very much so is.
And during that interview process, when he meets with teams, Bill, if there's one question you could ask Baker Mayfield just to find out a little bit more about him, was there a go-to question you always use to find out about character?
No, there's a test. There's a series of questions. It is a process. There are no silver bullets. It's hard work, shoe leather, testing, analysis.
Okay, great, guys. All right, stay with us, guys. We got